Hey guys, this is Zane here, back at it with another episode of Watching Monster House every single day this month with friends because I want them to. And this is going to be a continuation episode from the last one regarding the entire art book. I'm hopefully going to be able to get through all the rest of the notes this time around, and we won't have to make a third part. That would be most ideal, but if, a third part happens, I'll make sure it'll be... there probably won't be just art book stuff. If it's a third one, I'll split it into two and have another topic ready just as well, so that if you aren't super interested in this art book stuff, then you've got something else to listen to besides just that. So I don't want to go on too much about other stuff, and I want to get right into it. But first things first, I made like this milkshake thing with Starbucks cold brew coffee, and it's like a 10 out of 10 if you mix it with ice cream and stuff. That's my tip of the day. My first tip, probably my last tip, but it's a tip nonetheless. And also, one other thing is, I guess Fred Willard died today. He was the voice of DJ's dad in this. And that's really sad. He was a super funny guy, and it seemed like everyone really liked him. So, pour one out for the homie on that one. That really blows. And is really inconvenient timing with all of this, but I hope his family and stuff is doing good. I know Gil Keenan posted on his Instagram something about it as well, so I hope he's doing okay. But getting right into this, so last time we ended off on Nevercracker, a quote from Gil talking about Steve Buscemi as Nevercracker with the big eyes. So we are going to, I just want to make sure I'm at my right proper notes. Perfect, okay, we're good. So moving on from the Nevercracker, there's actually a bunch of concept art mapping on all of DJ's house. And pretty much all of it is exactly to what we see today. So some of it's 3D modeled, some of it's sketched with color, some of it even has some watercolors to it. And a couple noteworthy things in regards to the house is there's no microwave, but they do have an electric stove. The cabinets are all a nice green, and there's no wallpaper in the kitchen, but there is throughout the house. And the wallpaper's pretty mismatched. And there also is a CRT TV, and tile specifically in the kitchen, but it goes immediately to hardwood after that. And then there's just a couple rough sketches showing a potential for like chandelier, breakfast nook, and a bunch of different other concept art stuff, which is really cool. It looks like they went for a pretty typical like a 60s looking house that's been around for quite some time. And then just after that, they have a nice what appears to be just like a renditions of DJ's room. So some of it's really clean, some of it has a bunch of different stuff. Instead of ending off with the sort of squares that is the wallpaper, originally they went for what appeared to be animals and cowboys, so something more akin to Toy Story, like Andy's room. But not a whole lot changed throughout all of that. It all looks pretty much the exact same as it was. And in regards to the house with the big hand coming up while DJ was sleeping, there's actually a little blurb about that. Gil says, "I've been obsessed with hands since I was a kid." Here, I'll move this up here. "When we were searching for an exciting way for the house to reach out and let DJ know he was in trouble, this image popped into my head." So that was pretty much just like the hand coming over and touching him. Moving on from that, we have basically an entire page dedicated to, I've talked about it a few times, the dream sequence in regards to the pipes bursting out of the walls and whatnot. This part of a dream sequence shortened in the final film, where DJ is inside the house and the pipes are bursting through the walls. This is my favorite image. I was really happy with the mood it creates. I wanted it to feel like a children's story, but also like a horror film. And ultimately that scene never actually made it into the movie, but that would have been really cool to actually see. So, sorry, gotta take a drink. And then also going with the dream sequence, there is what appears to be an entire thing going on about DJ meeting up at the furnace by himself. So I would assume at one point, I think one of the YouTube comments that I read before from apparently someone working on the movie mentioned he was gonna fly over to the house and get to the furnace and stuff. And there's a couple storyboard sketches of like pipes bursting through the walls, and it looks like they're trying to find DJ. And there's fire starting to build up in the room, and he's trying to escape. And then there's another full 2-page rendition of what like DJ shielding his face, and there's a bunch of fire coming out at him. And they even have a nice, really funny rendition of when DJ calls Chowder, and Chowder's playing Atari. It definitely is for sure Atari, at least in this concept art, because of the joystick that he's using. And he's eating like Lay's, and there's like wheat thins and like burgers all over the place. He's pretty much by himself, just having a good time. And it looks like he's pretty much done that for quite some time. And there's even, I don't quite understand this, but there's a like vinyl record that says soothing sounds from the dentist's chair. And then there's a post-it note that says June 22nd, Nevercracker trimming plants, looks like he's talking to himself. So that's pretty neat. They also included a rendition of their like exact rendering of the hatchback that Z is supposed to drive, calling it Mary's hatchback. And there's some early art for Bones. Not a whole lot to be said. He looks a lot creepier in the older rendition. And there's also a high quality image of the poster that is found within Pizza Freak that you can see in the back corner that says Friday, October 31st, Skull and Bones with Skazoid, Master Control Program, Release the Kraken, at the smell. And there's like a dragon breathing out fire. And then there's a couple other little sticky notes, some light sketches of the house. May 4th, swear I heard a scream from the house, no one there. And also the cassette that Z puts in the player. Then there's another nice big drawing of what appears to be Z fighting with Bones, and DJ trying to sneak out with his shoes. And a nice 2 pages of all about Bones when he's seeing his kite. And there's even a really, really small concept art drawing of what appears to be young Bones when he's kite land on Nevercracker's lawn, and he's just staring at the house like sadly as he's on the sidewalk. Moving on, there's a early rendition of the Mayville Luxury Towers coming soon. What originally was called Le Pompey Villas, which are luxurious home-sized suites. And pictured is a family on like the canals in Venice, I think. I don't know what the boats are called, but there's a guy wearing like the striped shirt and has the pole, and the family's on the boat. So it looks like that was really early, and they just decided to go with the luxury towers and we've drained the lake. Also included are a couple 3D renders of the excavator. So not terribly exciting, but I mean they're there nonetheless. Okay. So we're getting into more of the 3D renders of the house and some of the more monstrous sketches of the house itself rather than it being just the plain house. And they said they wanted there to be a balance in the house that was creepy, but not downright scary, so it wouldn't go unnoticed in a neighborhood. And with a simple shift in lighting, a kid would be able to see it as a monster. So they've got one version of the house where instead of the porch going all the way around, from the partition in the eye, it blocks a little bit of to the side of the doorway, so the porch would stop a little bit halfway into the house. And they actually did a really, really good job with just the whole sketch renders of the house. It looks super neat. And on the side, there's even what appears to be one of those doorways to the cellar that have the 2 doors that swing outwards that usually would have like a padlock on them or something. I don't believe that made it into the final version, but it's there nonetheless. Also, a lot less trees are noticed here. There's only 2. There's a really, really nice little sketch of DJ and Chowder in the room after their first encounter with the monster house. I'm a really big fan of this one. You can see in the background a couple of the pee bottles, some sketches all over the wall, and there's a nice little excerpt here. This is DJ and Chowder in DJ's room after staying up all night observing the house and making a plan. This painting is a color key to get some sense of the morning light. We also wanted to remind kids of what it's like after sleepover when all your stuff is everywhere. Which is a very true feeling I'm sure pretty much everyone has had at one point in their life, a sleepover, and you wake up and there's just a big mess that you've sort of got to clean up, or at least make your parents do it, but it should be you, at least most of the time. And it looks like DJ is sitting on his knees and writing something up against his dresser where Chowder is looking out the window in the telescope. And you can't see Chowder's face, but the way he's like sitting and stuff, he looks exhausted, and his hair is all messy. Next, we've got the first encounter with Jenny. Just pretty rough. This one's actually like almost looks to be more watercolor based, and it's all kind of dark and dreary, and it looks like it's ran a little bit. Jenny's looking back with stuff on her cart. Maybe originally she wasn't selling chocolates. It almost looks like she has a bunch of pop or something here. A little important one. So much of a character's drama comes from the way they are lit, or not lit. Shadow is just as important as light. It seems they play more with lighting in this one than they do with, like, shadows, but the shadow working is also, like, impeccably done. The light sources are really consistent, and they're also, whenever there is a shadow, it's usually really thick and matte, rather than, like, in a faded kind of way. So in regards to that, that's really cool. Maybe they did different shadow work in regards to Nevercracker compared to the kids and whatnot. Next, we've got the artist's concept art for Jenny being on the wagon as their house is pulling her along the slabs, which probably one of the coolest scenes in the entire movie. It looks like from some of the pipes that are shooting up, there's steam flying out. Underneath all the slabs, there's like a bunch of roots hanging down, and there's a like sidewalk paths going around the house rather than just to the doorstep. It looks like they go all the way around, which I don't think made it into the end version, but they're there for some, I guess, concept work wise. There's a couple of post-it notes here, one of which being fishing line experiment, attach a hook to a toy, in brackets airplane, throw on lawn and slowly reel in. Also, they made an off-brand version of Smelly Felts. Sir Sniff-A-Lot, non-toxic smelly marker. It's a picture of a knight with like a really, really big nose. And there's also a really high-quality version of the Bad Attitude Mohawk punk rock duck that reminded me of Howard the Duck, but it definitely is not Howard the Duck. And there's also sort of what appears to be, I mentioned it early on, the big sheet of paper that DJ has that says day and things. There is another version of that here, except it's set up a little bit differently. It says Monday, RC car, and he has a little drawing that says Zoom. Tuesday, dirt bike with pegs, cool. And they're front pegs, not back pegs, because he did a little sketch. Wednesday, hula hoop, purple. Thursday, clown doll. And there's a big drawing of the house, and arrow that says 12 seconds, and then Nevercracker running out. Friday, another basketball. He takes whatever lands on his lawn, and then there's just a couple doodles on the side, such as finger monsters, and a hand with a bunch of faces on the fingers for whatever reason. It's probably, I mean, it's a good way of portraying maybe like some kid's curiosity and whatnot, and a little look into his mind. Because we don't actually see all that much of it. This is actually going significantly faster than I expected, which is nice, because I think we might be able to get all of this finished off by the end of this episode, rather than having to take longer than expected. Moving on, we're at the cops, and there's actually a good couple of changes that they did here. Probably the most changes in regards to characters, if you're comparing it to anyone else in the movie. Like, Z had a really big change, but I think she had a drastically different character in the first place, which was named Mary, but they ended up sticking with Z. So, it looks like Officer Listers, which was Nick Cannon's character, was supposed to be the main cop. He's got a more squared off head, looking a lot more serious, really big bushy stash. And in the concept art footage, it's him in the driver's seat, and then Officer Landers, which is Kevin James's character, is looking over him, and he looks absolutely he looks terrifying. But he looks like he's supposed to be the funny one, and the serious one is supposed to be Lister's. But in the end, we ended up getting both of them are just pretty goofy. And maybe that works out a little bit better, having them both be a little bit goofy and not super, super serious. As the song is playing on loop here, it is Sootopolis City from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It's a really, really good version. I'm almost a bigger fan of the original though, but this works for a little bit better for playing over and over again. And then besides Officer Lister's having one concept art being really like block-headed, there's another one that makes him look very identical to Frozone, which is pretty funny. He's really tall and skinny. He has a absolutely massive handgun in his hand. In this one, he looks like he's supposed to be a little bit more serious still than compared to what we got. But there's no actual concept art depicting Officer Lister's as the one that we have to this day, which is kind of interesting. They made a really big couple leaps to get to where they ended up now. And then there's some 3D renderings of the inside of the car and the wireframe design that they ended up sticking with so they could get the mocap working. And there's one design sketch from what it looks like inside the car, and it's insanely detailed. Like, I don't know what a lot of old cars look like on the inside, but the speedometer, however it tells you how fast you're going, instead of it being on a little circle, it spans across almost the entire front of the dashboard and front of the steering wheel. Like, it just goes left to right in one straight line rather than being in an arc, which is, I've never seen something like that before, but it's cool. There was also just a shotgun hanging out, standing straight up from the stock facing down, and it's just pointing straight up to the roof. There's a giant clip with a bunch of wanted posters stuck to it, and a radio. And there's also a coffee cup. But that's pretty much everything of note within the cop car. Besides that, it looks like a regular car. You can't see anything past the front seats in this one. And then they have a final rendition of the cop car, which looks pretty much exactly the same as what we ended up with. Just there's two like prong-looking things hanging off of the front bumper, and it looks like they took those off, but didn't change up anything else design-wise. Now we're getting into some of the really cool stuff, because this is where content ended up getting cut from the movie. I mean, the dream sequence and stuff was there, but this stuff, the stuff we're getting to seems like it was pretty important for some plot development. So here we have Pizza Freak. It originally looked to be a little bit more diner-like, and a lot of people would go there. And there's actually an entire main street designed just alongside Pizza Freak. So I would assume that there'd be a quick scene of the kids walking down the street to get to there at some point, or just for the sake of designing it, they just had these buildings done. But they have, yeah, all of the buildings are connected, and they're all like brick and wood. So I'm gonna go from left to right here, describing what we've got. We've got Bijou, what appears to be a theater, playing The Lark, which is one of Gil Keenan's student films that he had to do. I believe you can find it somewhere out there. It's pretty cool, actually. It's creepy, and it's all in black and white, and has some stop motion elements to it alongside real characters. There is a Lila's Cards and Gifts shop, and a couple of these are all connected in one giant building. So there's a 1908 Acme building, which encompasses Lila's Cards and Gifts, a hardware and locksmith store, and then what appears to be the entrance to a small stairway, which would lead to apartments that are on the second floor of the buildings. There is now a red building, which is Gracie's Tea and Cakes, and the Mayville Salon and Barber. An entirely different building is Something Inn, just with IN. It has like bride's dresses in the front, but I can't read like the first half because there's a tree cutting in the way. There's the Knick-Knack Shack, And then finally, there's a store that just is called Schmoop, which is something. And the production designer says, oh, actually, no, not the production. Gil says, to me, this movie reads very true, because this movie read like my own past. It was simple to put myself inside the script, because I could imagine a reality where a house could get up off its foundations and chase me through the neighborhood of Reseda. So the visual library of the film was drawn from something that was honest to me, which was nostalgia. And I actually really, really like the way this entire Main Street looks. And there's also a couple rough sketches of the exact layout of what you might expect a Pizza Freak to look like. Now, there's an entire page here just on Skull, which is crazy because he is such a minor character within the movie. But John Heater says, they tried to incorporate a little bit of each of the characters' faces into their characters. I don't look like Skull, but there's a little bit of my face and my mouth that they tried to put into the design. So he's pretty much the furthest off of any of the characters in the movie. And Skull is Mayville's resident soothsayer, except instead of a cave, he dwells in the depths of Pizza Freak. And instead of babbling a bubbling cauldron, he gazes into the foggy screen of a coin-operated machine. So there's some early concept art which looks identical to the Skull that we have today. There's the frame drawing of Behold the Great and Mighty Quarter, which is like a shadow box designed frame. And there's just a piece of paper with the stuff written on it and then a quarter taped to it. It says, responsible for 93.25 hours of battle on Thou Art Dead, July 2nd, 1983. No continues posers. Touch equals die. And there's a little newspaper cutout that says, local youth excels at video arcade gaming. And there's like some people dressed up and some dude presenting Skull with a crown, which is really great. And then even on the next page, there is... I'm shocked some of this stuff didn't actually make it into the movie. The Warrior Skull's machine. Thou must followest these rules. 1. Thou must not have food anywhere near the Warrior's machine. Thou must beest prepared with at least $3 in quarters. No tourists. Don't even think about asking the Warrior for change. 3. Thou must not hit, kick, or yell at game. If thy sucketh, it's thine own fault, knave. And rule number 4, no girls. And it looks like he started to write rule number 5, but then realized he ran out of space, because there's a continuation of it. He even drew a little diagram. Number 5. When Skull is in the midst of battle, thou must not be within 2 feet of the warrior. See diagram A. And there's like Thou Art Dead machine, a drawing of him, and then like a 2 feet radius of lines all around him to show that that's like the dead zone. If the sphere of concentration be broken, a pox upon your home. I own a broadsword. Rule number 6. While in the midst of battle, no food or grog shall be served by the warrior. 7. Thou must not approach the warrior in battle without a suitable offering. Candy-coated cookies are best, no cashews. 8. Thou must not try to beat the warrior's high score, as if it were even possible. Failure to adhere to these rules will be met with dire consequences, and there's a drawing of a sword, and he says, my broadsword. I kid you not, it will be something involving sauce and mucus, I assure you. And then there's just some drawings of the Thou Art Dead pixel art, which I won't get too much into because there's a whole extra little thing on that. There's some concept art of just a pizza car itself. Not much else to it, it just is the pizza truck. And there's something really, really cool here. It's called the Widley and Munt Encyclopedia of Monsters. And I'm gonna discuss this a little bit more in a different part, because it goes alongside with a couple other things. But it's like a little booklet. Exterior and interior art by Simon Wilkins. And it's kind of like a little comic book format showing what appears to be the kids flipping through the Encyclopedia of Monsters and finding an example of a monster house, or a castle in this sake. And it shows in a couple of pictures the fate of Pretorius II. And it looks like he was commanding his mule to carry bricks up a ladder, but they fell back and landed on him. And when the castle ended up finishing being built, it came to life because his soul was underneath all the bricks. And there's a really, really cool like Grim Reaper looming over a regular suburban household on the last page, which is probably one of my favorite pieces of concept art in this whole thing. And going past that, I'm actually going to have to end this off pretty soon. We're already at like 25 minutes. This is wild how much stuff there is. So I'll get a little bit more into it and then have to call it quits. So this will have to be a part 3, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through it in the most interesting way I can. All the stuff is super fascinating, and I wish I had a way that I could show it all off to you visually, but I'm sure a lot of you are just listening to this as it is anyways, so I hope you can imagine. But moving on, there is a rendition of a library, and there's a little excerpt saying, in an early draft, Jenny goes to the library to learn about the Monster House, but Keenan transferred the information gathering to Pizza Freak location. Libraries are very expositional in nature. It felt a bit easy. I think the idea to have a character, Skull, who's this larger-than-life soothsayer was a much more interesting way to go. So they, fully designed this library and had Jenny looking up these books and going through the aisles and whatnot for information on this. And then there is a nice big concept art for the kids with their crayons drawing their rough idea sketch that they were going to do to take out the house. So, and then the the idea behind this being in Halloween is that they wanted there to be some big upcoming event that was going to flood the neighborhood at the worst possible moment, so the kids actually had to have an urgency of taking out the house right then and there, so that they could try and save the neighborhood. And I never really thought about it that way, because I didn't think too much about, they could have just, not done it, but that's why they had to get it done that day. Here's the concept art for Vacuum Cleaner Dummy, which I forgot to mention on my own day is my favorite character. It's not DJ like I think I said. It's definitely Vacuum Cleaner Dummy. I don't know why he slipped my mind. So, all of the, no, this is on the same page. Sorry, I'm looking between my notes and the book itself, and sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. So, all of the characters are based on impressions in Gil's head from just reading the script. So there was never outright any description of the characters being Chowder is this blonde, chubbier character, DJ's this lankier guy. They just had character dialogue, and he based all of the character, what he thought they might look like, just on that, which is crazy. Because he was able to come up with this whole look to the movie, just going off of that, which blows my mind. I could never be that creative, ever. So I think this will probably be the last page that I go over. And so I'm on page 99, and there's still roughly 50 or so pages left. I only got 50 pages done in half an hour, but we're getting there. I'm still not even done this page. So going over this, there's 2 sticky notes, one which is another crude design of the house from DJ. I'm assuming all these sticky notes are written by DJ. And there's also another one saying, Saturday, August 11th. Billy Dinkles' brother's rocket landed on Nevercracker's lawn, gone in 18 seconds. And underneath these post-it notes, it looks like DJ in a school assignment had drawn out something called the Amazing Colossal Contraption by some guy. This is DJ Walters also. And reading September 20th to Ms. Spool. And it's just a little mousetrap contraption for him, planning out to draw Nevercracker out from the house to go underneath the telephone pole, and then he will drop a cage on him and saying, the streets are safe once again, which is pretty cute and funny. And there's only the one concept art really for Vacuum Cleaner Dummy, and it looks pretty much identical, a little bit more goofy to what we ended up getting, but that's Nothing really changed too much from that. And I think that'll be a good place for me to call it for now. So in the next one, I'll definitely be able to get through the rest of the book and have a little bit of time to talk about like the Thou Art Dead stuff and Simon Wilkins' stuff that I wanted to. And that stuff is really cool and a little bit dark, and I'm excited to get into that. I can't believe we're already pretty much finished this entire like 30 days. We've still got a good couple days left, and I'm gonna try and get a couple more people on, and I'll figure out something to do for the potential last day. I'm thinking I might do some live watch and try and stream it to a bunch of people, but I'll figure that out. Anyways, this has been Zane. I hope these past 2 episodes have been interesting to you as they've been to me for the concept art and whatnot, and I hope you'll stick around for the last little bit of all of this. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.